washing all of it. This is bad. I know. So I usually spray it in there. Go off what I can see.
All right, well,
All right.
oh, wait a minute, I see Stephanie as an attendee, so let me move her over.
Okay.
Oh, there we go, and now we have Robin.
Hello, everyone.
Great.
Hello.
Good morning.
I don't use the one downstairs.
There's still some voice that I hear. I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute myself because I think
It's
in my office,
All right, that's fine. I just thought there was someone else that was trying to.
no, I'm gonna mute myself. Unless you need me to talk, I'll mute then.
Great, thanks. All right, good morning. We'll call to order this meeting of the Pension Committee. The Pension Committee is in session with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of its 7. We are missing only Captain Watt from the fire department. So we have 6 of our 7 and therefore a quorum, and we'll call the meeting to order at 9:03. The first item of business is to update you on pending retirements. There are 4 retirements that are in the mill right now. One of them is Chris Condon, who will be retiring with a disability retirement. He continues to make progress in his physical therapy. We're hoping that then will end his disability retirement and he'll be able to return to work if it goes as planned. But we are no longer able to continue to support him using work-related injury via the trust. So we are pushed in that direction. The second person the second situation is 2 members of the school, Deborah Gay and Chris Osborne Sr. are both retiring at the end of this month. And then in the town halls, Sheila Oliveira, the deputy clerk, is retiring at the end of next month. So any questions on that? All right, the next item of business is to look at what the actuary said back when I posed the questions that I raised to you at the last meeting and gave us, here are the questions. In our current labor contract negotiations, I've been asked if we might consider modifying the calculation for those public safety employees, there are currently 2, who will reach mandatory retirement age of 62 in accordance with our town ordinance before they reach 25 years of service. Basically, the request is to multiply years of service times 2% by 1.65% of average compensation to determine the pension benefit. I'd appreciate your advice on whether and how I might entertain this proposal. His response, and let me just read the other one and then I'll get to his response. The other question was, again, in negotiations, I've been asked to consider a higher percentage benefit in exchange for higher employee monthly contributions. His response was to your 2 final points, that is the 2 I just wrote or just spoke. Our legal department can certainly prepare the documentation and plan amendments required to implement such changes. In addition, before finalizing any changes to the benefit formula or employee contribution, you may consider additional analysis to gauge the effect of these changes. Our consulting team can prepare a study with estimated impact on expected employer contributions and plan funding, as well as the GASB accounting disclosure reporting. Please let me know if you have any questions, and if this is something you'd like to discuss further, I'm happy to coordinate a call with our team. So where I am on this is I would like to propose something on this order and ask if the committee would think that's a good idea, and then to engage the actuary to talk to us about how it might be implemented. Here's what I'm thinking. It is uncommon, but I can see it occasionally happening. And we have the condition now with 2 of our public safety employees that they will reach age 62 with something on the order of 22 to 23 years of service. My suggestion would be that we consider altering the person who does not achieve 25 years of service to say, if a person reaches age 62 in the public safety service of the town and has served for at least, and I'm proposing 20 years, that person's retirement will be calculated using a multiplier of 2%. That way, a person retiring with 20 years would retire with a 40% pension. Just as today, a person with 25 years retires with a 50, and a person with 30 years retires with a 60. That would be something that we could do in order to acknowledge the extensive service of certain employees. I would be reluctant to say, as long as you're vested, in other words, as long as you serve here 10 years, we'll use that same multiplier, although you may feel differently, that we can discuss that. So I'd open it to any discussion that you might have on that.
The thing that concerns me is that people, when they signed up, they were obviously older, new hires. And we questioned as a pension board, because we're not consulted on the hires and probably shouldn't be, why we were hiring people that age, because there would be a problem with them reaching full pension.
Okay.
And didn't seem to be a problem when they were hired.
Okay. And I can say that both were hired on my watch, so I was cognizant of that and did not respond to the pension committee if there was a question raised.
And one of the rationales for hiring them is that they had long service as volunteer firemen, I believe, for at least one of them.
Right.
I'm not sure about the second one.
Right.
I mean, I think we want to reward good service, and you certainly had good service, the 2 people in question. So it's just a concern that all of a sudden we have to change the rules when we knew it would be a problem when they were hired.
Have there been other members of the police or fire which have requested something similar?
I'm not aware of any. I don't believe so. Typically, as you are, and the point was just made, typically a person is hired in their 20s and they get nowhere near 62 years of age before becoming eligible for retirement. And so, and the only fact or the only item to consider in this for the future is that it is likely now that we will consider hiring, perhaps on an interim basis, folks who are have completed service in another town. Say a person who begins in another town at age 20 and serves 20 years and retires and then comes here at age 41 and serves for some years here. So, we may choose, and I say this only because we've had such desperate poor fortune with all sorts of injuries, et cetera, as we've strived to keep a full force in both departments, more in the fire because the fire has to put 2 people on duty at all times with never any alternative ways of covering that. And they have to be both EMTs and firefighters. But nonetheless, in both departments, we've had that need. And so I don't think it'll go away. I'm not sure that we will, in the model I've just suggested, I'm not sure that we'll have a 20-year person that we're considering, but I suppose it's possible.
Well, it won't go away unless we try to make it go away and hire somewhat younger people.
Well, let me just tell you that we are right now suffering from a situation where people who have committed to us have been tempted away by another department. And we are in a virtual constant hiring process in the fire department in an effort to try to keep up with that. And I don't see that abating. In other words, folks say, we have moved from a time when most of the fire department grew up here as volunteers to now, and this is no indictment of either set of people, but we now have a much more variegated set of folks that are part of it.
Yeah.
And morning. And so that's where we are. Captain Watt has now joined us here at the town hall. So there's 3 of us here, and the others are all on camera. So I was just describing our current mix in the fire department and how it's been populated, and the fact that it is now common for us to hire someone from a distance away. That person comes here, decides this is not the sort of pace that they signed up for. This is not the sort of duty that they'd like to be involved in. And sometimes, frankly, it's a pay decision, but it's a host of things. But we are in a real transition time, particularly in the fire department, with respect to hires coming and then leaving.
Well, then they'll never reach that.
No, that's what I'm saying. That sort of person is not in this category. A person who comes here finds, and it's not unique to fire. There have been police officers that have done the same, but this is a place that wasn't what they wanted to do and where they wanted to serve. And then, no offense to the department or anything else, this isn't what I thought being a fireman or a police officer is going to be. And I'd like to go someplace where there's something different. So, but I agree with you. That's not who we're talking about. We're talking about, I had explained that we have cases now. In the future, there could be a 41-year-old that comes here and serves 20 years here and still doesn't reach age 62. And your point's well made. We're not in the business of trying to gentrify the fire department. We're not striving to hire experienced older people simply for that purpose, but because of the nature of the suddenness of some of these decisions, we've been at least we're considering anything in order to keep our staff.
Can you extend the service from 20 or 22 years to 25 years?
And we require 25 years for retirement.
I understand.
No, I think Steve is saying let them work longer.
Yeah.
That creates a safety problem, I think, for.
I agree. Work after age 62? Yeah, I did not choose that. I think there's general agreement that the solution to this should not be to accommodate an older force just because of the nature of what we are involved in rescue on a daily, several times a day basis. And
it's Steve and I they're going to be rescuing, so.
Wait a second. You 2 youngsters have got a long way to go. Yeah.
I'd say, your proposal seems reasonable. It's, what's it about, a 15% increase for their pension?
No, 4%.
4% increase?
Well, if somebody retires now with the 1.65, say they come here for 10 years, they get 1.65% for each year that they worked. So to go to 2% is they're only going to go from getting 16.5% of their salary when they leave to 20%. So that's not a huge increase in pay.
Right.
Or,
Yeah, it's the multiplier that's used against their salary to say this is their monthly benefit. So that benefit would increase, as the captain says, by a figure of 3.5%
Yeah.
on the, with this proposal. Instead of being multiplied by 16.5, it'll be multiplied by 20.
Right.
And then the years of service works on that number.
Mhm. All right, so 4% increase.
4%.
3.5. 16, 1.65 to 2 is only 3.5%.
Yeah, right. But then you have to multiply that times the number of years served.
So if they do 10 years, they go from a 16
For
and a
10
half.
years, yeah, right.
If they do 20, it would be,
32, 33, and,
But the years of service will be the same in both cases.
yes,
So that multiplier won't change. So it'll be salary times 16.5 or 20% times years of service equals benefit.
does anyone have a problem with the fact that it's 2 people out of what, 20?
Well, I'm responding to a request of a union negotiation, which I believe is a relatively reasonable and modest accommodation that they have requested. And you're right, I don't think it discriminates against anyone. In other words, a person who serves
25 years.
25
50
years,
and- yeah.
so it's not taken at the expense of something else. It's frankly an extra cost borne by the town. But I would suggest that a person who gives us nearly 25 years of service, we're saying gets nearly the benefit of someone that, is started.
Yeah, they're still getting less benefit because of the years of service.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's an unfair request. I just don't like the rules changing when they knew it was a problem when they joined.
Yeah,
well, to be quite honest though, I don't think that people, when they're getting hired on a job, I don't think that when somebody is doing that, I don't think that they're looking at the pension. They're just glad to be getting hired,
Right.
Right.
Yeah, but we weren't here when we had this discussion. It was an issue for the pension board when they were hired that we raised. We asked, why are we hiring people who can't qualify for a pension, at full pension?
I was not on the pension board then, so I would not have been involved in that.
But lots of things that we talked about years ago, it's I don't know. I don't have a problem with Bob's request. I don't like it, but it's reasonable.
Is this setting any kind of precedent for the future?
Well, in the future, if we have a hire that somebody comes in at 40, like Bob said, at 40 years old, he's not going to make, I mean, there's a lot of guys on the police and fire side that they, for instance, we had a gentleman that retired from Tiverton at, he was 40 years old. He came here and he was planning on doing 10 or 12 years and then retiring, but because he had to retire under the contract that he had, or he would lose medical after retirement. So he left Tiverton and came to Little Compton. And he was never going to make the years, but he was a great fireman, great paramedic. And, the police have had similar, and I would imagine in years to come, if we can find somebody that wants to do that would be a good, somebody's already trained. We don't have to send them to any academies. They just come in and learn how we do things, and they, go from a busy department and say North Providence or whatever, and just come to a slower pace department.
What was the rationale for granting this extra pension benefit to police and fire?
I have no idea. You mean,
Well, we're discussing the same thing. One class of employees wants to get a little bit more.
Well, I think it was because we have a guy that is leaving. He is going to age out at a certain age, and he, it was just a contract negotiation item that we put in to see if the town would okay that.
So it has nothing to do with the rigorousness or the danger of the jobs that they're performing.
Yeah, that's why the 62 is there.
yeah,
Yeah, we don't,
we're not proposing to change that.
Yeah, I think there's a great rationale that, I don't know, both have served as volunteers, but this also recognizes their volunteer service. I can justify in my mind, yeah, we're making an exception because they had lots of years of volunteer service in addition to full-time service. So I don't think it's unreasonable, but we knew about this, so it's like the child who's jumping on the bed and the parent says, be careful, you're going to hurt yourself. And they hurt themselves and the parent says, I told you so. But I think it's a reasonable request.
Yeah, right. It doesn't have any, I don't think, any impact on the decision. The individual must retire at age 62. That's an ordinance of the town. So it's not accommodating somehow come here for less time and get out with the same. It's the opposite. It's stay here for your full time. And when you do, and it exceeds some threshold, and I'm proposing it would be 20 years, we're going to use the multiplier of 2% rather than 1.65%. So it's not, it's an effort to try to, first of all, accommodate a union proposal and negotiation, which I feel is a reasonable one. And at the same time, not encumber the town with the future that every firefighter or every public safety official that retires is going to retire with a larger pension. Therefore, it's a massive impact on our pension fund.
Well, it could be if
it's only
all the members.
3.5%. I mean,
Well, you're giving an example of 10 years.
well, we get vested at 10 years.
Right,
We're vested in the pension at 10.
correct.
So, I thought that, if somebody comes here at, say at 42 years old, when do we hire that person? He was 44 years old, right? I can't remember. But, if somebody wants to, like, say, stay 10 years and, all of a sudden he just decides, well, my body isn't letting me do this.
Right.
And he stays 10 or 11 or 12 or.
And we have a number of those people in our history, both in police and fire, people that served the town for some lesser period, did not qualify for a pension, turned age 62 and then satisfied the overall pension requirement. And they are now, they have a 10-year pension, again, with this 1.65 multiplier. That's why we're drawing a bit of a distinction. This is somebody who goes all the way to the end of the period that he could serve and does not wish to leave, but is required by his age to leave. Therefore, we're saying, all right, well, in order to, to compensate such a person for that period of service, that's the rationale.
Well, Bob, you're saying that there's a limit. It would only apply to people that have 20 years service or more.
That's what I'm suggesting, right? Because I don't foresee hiring a 52-year-old and having 10 years of service and vesting and then saying, all right, I mean, to your earlier point, it is a young person's occupation, and that's, you know, when the person starts. And so that's how I see it working out. It's only these few where there was, you know, we were right at the
I mean, I personally, and I think Andy would feel the same, that I would like to see it less than 20 years, but. I might have to leave.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I will take that if with your, I'll ask, let's do the other one, then we can look at a motion here. Higher percentage benefit in exchange for higher employee monthly contributions. What's your sense there?
How does that tie in with going from 1.65 to 2%? Isn't that the same thing? For those people?
It's a totally different
Right.
thing.
It's another of the proposals that I've been asked to consider in negotiations.
You want to vote on the first one first, get that out of the way.
Sure. Then the question before us would be is that, and you frame the motion as you see fit. Do you want to give me the authority to do it? Do you want me to come back to you and tell how much the study or the estimating is going to cost us? But whatever your pleasure would be.
Well, let's say you hire someone at 26 years old, right? And after 10 years, he decides, well, I can get 20% pension because I'll be vested. And
So that
Doesn't fly.
that just happened in the police department. The
really?
guy had 10 years,
Yeah,
and another department hired him. So he gets a 1.65 pension. He doesn't collect that pension until he's 62 years
right,
old.
yeah,
But he gets a 1.65 times 10, 16.5% for the amount for every year that he worked. I mean, for the 16.5% pension
Starting at age 62.
at 62.
at 62 or at
No, at 62.
36.
At 62.
62. A vested person doesn't
Collect.
earn an
the loan.
that's what that's what we would be changing here, is a person in police or fire must work 25 years to draw a pension on
Right.
retirement.
Yeah,
So that person, in that example, a person who leaves here with 10, 11, 12, 14, 17 years of service
he only gets 16 and a half.
times and does not get that pension until that person is 62 years old. So there's not an immediate impact. on
There's
them.
no, I mean, so if somebody, you know, you'd have to look at how old they're gonna live. I mean,
Right.
and we don't know that. I mean,
Right.
All right. What motion might be made?
I make a motion that would give it the authority to come back and tell us how much it's going to cost.
Sorry, what's the motion?
The motion is that that I be given authority to determine from Angel what the charge would be to give us this answer.
okay.
Not the charge, but what the cost of their retirements would be. to the
Oh, I'm
plan.
sorry.
We're not
I'm
gonna
sorry.
know that until
He dies.
until
his wife dies.
somebody turns 62 years old.
Right, until they actually retire.
Yeah, but if they're ready to retire, we know what the monthly effect, we don't know how long they're going to live. But we
Right.
know what the monthly cost would be to the pension plan, right?
Yeah,
To be
Maybe we
clear,
know it now. I mean,
but that only gives you part of the answer. I mean,
yeah, but we don't know. I mean, it's that.
well, we don't know, but Angel, I guess, is gonna have, you know.
You have to look at the mortality.
expectancies.
I don't, you know, what are we going to find out from Angel about cost? Maybe we don't need to find out what the
Yeah,
cost
I'm beginning
is.
to,
Vote on it.
All right, then let me ask that we move to appoint a group of 2 or 3 of us to engage in a conversation with Angel on the subject and have the authority to say either return to the group or proceed with, to tell them to go ahead. All we're trying to figure out is what's the impact on someone who would have retired at age 62 and had a 1.65 multiplier if under 20 years or more of service, that person had a multiplier of 2.0. From an algorithmic standpoint, how does it, what changes in the outcome if you do
Well,
that?
they won't be able to tell us
Why wouldn't they?
because they don't know what the life of that person is gonna be, and you're gonna pay.
Well, but they do that all the time. That's what they tell us every year. Sure they do.
Yeah, but-
They use a mortality table, and that's how so they use the mortality table to give us the figure that we have right now. So now we're asking them change the mortality.
They can give us an
change
estimate.
the, parameters to give a 2.0 by 1.65. It's simply arithmetic. I could do it if I had the
No,
algorithm.
it's not really.
Roger could do it this afternoon.
I don't know. I think those.
Yeah, they can tell us, they can give us an estimate.
And that's probably why our amortization of the pension liabilities is always off.
Well, there would be a perfect opportunity to explore that with them then, if you want. I mean,
Well,
we can do it.
You want to spend another $50,000?
No, I'm saying,
For an uncertain answer.
But I think that because, I mean, we don't get a big, even if you do 25 years, you don't get a big payout on your pension. And I think,
Depending on how long the guy lives.
yes, but I mean, we don't, your monthly take home pay, I'm sure your pension from your company is much better than my pension is gonna be. But what I'm trying to say is I think that because our pension is so, our benefit package is so low for the pension, that's part of the reason that some of these people come here. I mean, we just had a guy got hired 2 years ago, left to get a $10,000 raise by leaving here and going to Portsmouth. So, I mean, there's I think that's part of the reason that we are not retaining some of these people.
Well, I think you're right in the sense that people tend to focus on the more immediate things such as weekly pay, monthly pay.
Well, I'm talking about retirement.
I know,
you know?
but no one really looks at that, at least when you're younger. You know, they're saying, well, we got a pension, that's great.
I did when I.
I-
All right, so we have a motion.
Okay.
and would you say it again?
You modified it, Bob, to say that I make a motion that we work with Angel to find out the estimated cost of reducing or increasing the retirement for people that can't make it, that have at least 20 years experience, increasing their retirement from 1.65 to 2.0.
I think, don't we have that answer?
No.
No. Where do we have it?
Well, as Randy suggested,
It's 4% of their, or 3.5% of their monthly retirement over their lifetime. So we know what the estimated expectancy of their life is multiplied by the present value of what their pension over their life expectancy is going to be. Not a difficult calculation for them. So if their average pension is $50,000 a year, you have to add in the cost of living, all that stuff. So Angel come back and give us an estimate.
Well, they're gonna give you a number.
50,000.
They don't have that.
That's a pretty good pension.
Yeah, why not? Not near that.
Can you read back what I mumbled?
Yes. The motion is to work with Angel to find the estimated cost of 20 years of service, permitting a 2.0% multiplier vice a 1.65% multiplier on someone who gets to age 62.
Right.
Is there a second to that motion? Right. The motion has no second. Just
Well, I think the reason why it has no second is because these numbers are calculable. And we don't know how much it's gonna cost. We will know the increase in cost, going from 1.65 to a 2.0
how will we know that?
by simply taking the guy's salary and calculating it and saying, okay, you know,
But what's the cost to the pension plan? Not what does he take home as a retirement pay? But what's the cost to the pension plan? Don't we need to know what the amortization across the expected lifetime of such a person is as compared to what it is now with the same
well,
expected
I'm
lifetime?
not so sure on that because I don't think you can know how much you're gonna have to pay someone's pension. And there are people that live to, 95 years old and then have married someone who's
But
20 years younger and then they get the pension.
Well,
But again, the pension, our contribution to the pension plan is calculated on the basis of a mortality table that says this person will live to precisely this age.
Yeah, but that mortality table is flawed.
Well,
It's just a guess. I mean,
if
come
I
on.
use a flawed mortality table to grant you your and I apply it at 1.65% and then I apply it at 2%, I at least have the ability to compare two numbers that are flawed in the same manner to each other and say, it's going to be insignificant or it's going to be dramatic. I have no idea what this will change it. I don't know the mortality tables. That's why I have to hire them to do it.
the only bad thing is what they charge to just tell us that.
Yes,
That kills me.
All right, I'll give you a little levity. The difference between a US actuary and the Sicilian actuary. The Sicilian actuary says, you US actuaries, you use the table to figure out who's gonna die. Because I can give you the names and the date. They're gonna be dead.
all right. I can't top that. I don't know what to do with this. Wow. What's the committee's pleasure? What would you like to do?
Someone make a motion. If we want to approve it, just make a motion.
You made the motion, it had no second.
Right, so now let's see if we have a different motion. Do we have a motion just to go ahead and approve the increase?
Well, let's make,
I think there are a lot of questions about just approving the increase. Because, we're doing this at the request of 2 out of 20 people or whatever. We don't know any whether we're setting a precedent for the future. When someone can come in and say, okay, you went from, 25 years service to 22 or 20. So let's go down to, 18. So
All right, let me do this. Let me take this matter and I'll craft a different proposal for you and come back to you and see if we can move this forward. I had hoped that we would be able to get something on the table today so that we could conclude the union negotiations in progress and do so before the end of the month, obviously. But I'm
Would you want to backward prorate from 2% down to 1.65 based on 20 versus, up to 25 years of service? So that somebody that ends up 24.9 years, lacking 1/10 of a year to qualify, that person gets 2%. Where a 1/10 of a year more, it would be 1.65. So how about prorate it backwards?
wow, I'm not with you, Roger. Could you say that again?
Somebody that has 25 years of service at age 62, they get 1.65%. Now somebody,
25, we get
if they have
50%.
25 years of service at age 62, they get 50%.
I'm talking about the 1.65% calculation off salary. Does that apply there?
Well, not for public safety. It does for the municipal union, yes.
Okay, well then in that case, prorate the 40% versus 50% based upon how close they are to 25 years of service. Going from like 20 to 25 is 5 steps or maybe 6, but so you divide that 10% difference by the number of years you're prorating, so that somebody that is at 24.9 years of service would get closer to 50%, whereas somebody at 20 years of service would get 40%. And points in between.
So Roger, are you trying to avoid that someone that has 24.2 years gets a higher pension than someone has 25 years?
That's kind of in the back of my mind, yes.
Okay.
It would certainly
No,
resentment.
okay. Let me respond to that by saying, if this were implemented in the way that I'm imagining it would, is a person who serves for 20.0 years and is age 62 would get a 40% 40% of his salary as a pension benefit. A person who served 21 years of service would get a 42%.
Correct.
23 years of service, 46%. So it would be linear between 20 years and frankly, 30 years. Right now, it only goes from 25 to 30. It would go from 20 to 30. But the only people eligible that don't serve 25 years are people who reach age 62 somewhere in that 20 to 25 years of service period. So those very few people that reach age 62 would have a benefit slope that looks exactly the way that the other people have, except that their slope would go to fewer years of service. They could enter the slope with fewer years of service. So instead of at 20 years getting 33%, they would get 40%.
So I think, Roger, what Bob is saying is that the years of service do the step year by year.
Right. In fact, the months of service would do it. It would be.
Yeah.
So
I'm still wondering, why wouldn't you want to prorate it for somebody that's pretty close to the 25 years, just short, say a half a year? why would that person also start at 40% versus somebody with 20 years of service?
I'm lost.
Yeah.
Well, they get more than 40% because of their years of service. Let's say they had 23 years of service and they reached 62. Well, then they get 46% of their pension
Right?
because the
That-
years of service is the step.
Well, that's basically what I was getting at.
Yeah,
But what I
think
saw
Bob's
was either
proposal
40
does.
or either 40% versus 50%. It sounded like it was binary.
no, it's not because of the years of service, because it's the 2% multiplied by the years of service.
Well,
Years, months, days, whatever.
for that case, if it's 1.65% for the 23 years that you just spoke of, it's 37.95% of his
Right.
Salary.
of the salary versus the three more percent would be 40. So
Oh, it's 46 because of his years of service.
I just don't think we're asking for a lot of. But again, I don't know what the impact would be. It's not an impact that's going to affect somebody right away. I mean,
Exactly.
especially with the recent retirement in the police department. He's still, in his 40s, so he's not going to see that pension for 20 more years,
All right, so someone who has 24 years of service and reaches age 62 gets 39.6%. I think that's what you said, right?
Well, how many years?
24 years of service and reaches 62.
39.6, yep.
39.6. And under Bob's proposal, it would be 2% times 24, which would be 48%.
Right.
So the difference for that person would be 9%, 8.4%.
Right.
That's why I said, let's have,
Or somebody
Angel,
like
tell us
that,
what-
they would get, somebody like that with that many years, I mean, they could essentially, because of some other things that are in our contract, they could essentially say, okay, we're gonna buy, I'm gonna cash my sick leave in that we buy back. And that would put them over the 25, up to the 25 years. If you go by 24, you know what I mean? We could, the buyback for the sick leave and the vacation, you have the vacation time, we could just run that out and almost have a year's credit.
Additional service. Yeah. Yeah.
that's why I said, let's,
So that's what I mean. If it's, this is mostly for somebody that is, less than 24 years, obviously, but, I mean, I'd have to think about it.
I don't understand why we're paying sick leave and
Because it's
Something-
contractual. We only get
okay,
50%
it's contractual
of the-
means it's been negotiated into the contract.
Right.
But why was it negotiated into the contract? I mean, in the private sector, you got to use it or lose it.
But you get in the private sector, don't you get a benefit package when you leave? I forget what they call it. It's
Well, I'm sure you get pensions and,
and
other things.
Well, we're not gonna solve
No.
contract negotiations here.
Someone make a motion.
So
Yeah, may I have your authority to talk to the actuary on behalf of the committee and find out what it would cost and for them to perform this discussion with us? I anticipated that piece would be free, frankly, that they would meet with us.
That's a joke.
And no, we've got to move the ball down the field, it seems to me, or else wrap it up.
We're moving it down the field, but the problem is the numbers are all fuzzy. And so they're not going to be able to give you an accurate answer.
well, they're gonna be able to give them an accurate answer of how much it's gonna cost for them to do the study.
Right.
I mean, you know, I mean, we've done this.
Why bother with that? Let's just tell that, why don't we just have them tell us what they think it's going to cost the pension plan to do this?
That's
Not
what
gonna be-
I thought we would talk.
That's
about.
what your motion does.
Yeah, but no one seconded it.
Yes.
Let's try it again. I make the motion again.
So the motion is to work with Angel to find the estimated cost of 20 years of service, receiving a 2.0 vice a 1.65% multiplier in the pension calculation. The
That's
cost
Rob's motion.
To the pension plan.
The short-term costs, really, because
I'll second it if that's what the motion is.
Stephanie
the guy
second.
lives till he's, 45.
Steve, they do it every year.
Just so we can move forward.
And every year, we have to change the amortizations of the shortfall. And that was basically one of Rob's points a couple of meetings ago.
But I'm saying they do it already. Now we're saying do another one using those same assumptions and tell us the delta. You're right. Neither answer may be accurate with respect to real life, but the delta is precise, isn't it? The delta between a 1.65 and a
Yes.
2.0
Yes.
using identical assumptions.
All right, Bob, we have a second to the motion. Stephanie seconded it.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, I'll ask for a roll call vote then of the motion. Mr. Morgan,
Aye.
Mr. Lord,
Aye.
Mr. Mara,
Aye.
Mrs. Wilkie,
Aye.
Mr. Ham,
No.
Mr. Watt,
Yeah, aye.
and Mushin, aye. Okay, thank you. I will carry that out. Now, the second question that was raised by the union in negotiation was, could we contribute more and then in exchange for that get a higher pension benefit? And speaking on behalf of the union, of which I am not a member, I'm imagining that's because we are losing people to go to places that have higher pension benefits and have higher pension contributions. And they've looked at other contracts and seen it. Am I accurate?
Yes, we have. So the guys were not, there's three of us that are not involved in this. So it's all, anybody hired after 2012 that they would like, I think now we pay 7% into our pension, and they would like to pay more. I don't know how much. We had just talked about maybe 9 or 10% increase, and then
Not increase.
well,
9 or 10% of salary.
of salary. And then we would be able to possibly have and we've done this study in the past, because when I first came on board, we did this study, and they did it with everybody, with the whole department, to get to pay into the pension and go maybe a 20-year pension, 25-year, and then a 30-year pension. So that was just, like I said, I don't pay into the pension, so it does not involve me. But there's 3 of us on the job that are from the old, before 2012. So we just, the newer guys are looking to increase their pension. I guess that's how.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, the police department is in a similar condition in the sense that they have some people who pay into the pension and others who do not. I don't believe the police union has raised this in their negotiations, but Corporal Morgan may be able to tell us.
No, we haven't brought that up specifically in our negotiations.
So this is those of you who experienced that study, which came in the early aughts and was, I think, only Rob and Steve were part of the pension committee at that point, but I don't believe that it went anywhere. That study that looked to what can we do to change the size of our pension by contributing. At that point, the fire had contributed for some years and then did not after that, and the police were not contributing at all.
Well, I contributed at one point.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
police,
it was too expensive, but this is a different proposal.
Fire
This
did,
is,
and then police did, and then fire was removed, and then police was removed.
I'm pretty sure that the police did not, but the fire, I know, it was
I know
only
the
for a
fire.
short year, for a short amount of time that we did. And I remember going to the pension meetings and trying to calculate.
right.
So the guys paid in for X amount of years and then they stopped paying. So there's this much money that they calculate at this much. And it was, to me, it seemed like it was kind of a nightmare. But
Right. Here, for this motion, I would understand an argument that says you can't figure it out, because I'm not sure you can figure this out because there are so many variables. But I would suggest that.
Well, I like I told you the other day, I think it should, the 3 guys that are, as long as the last study that we did, that the fire department did, they did for everybody in the department. So Lieutenant D'Souza, he had retired. He was like at 23 or 22 years. So for him to start paying into the pension, to get a 20-year pension was going to cost a huge amount of money. So now this is the same with me now, and Lieutenant Nickerson and Lieutenant Vandal. They should exclude us from that study and just do the people that are paying in.
That are contributing.
So we don't have to
Right.
pay the extra money to figure out.
How do I get you in?
No, I'm not gonna. I'm the 25-year, 25 or 30, whatever, and I don't want to be involved in that or make them do any extra work to charge us any extra money.
Well, let me ask a question here. Is it typical that the fire and police department safety people have 401k and Roth retirement plans?
Say that again?
Do you have another The problem that I have is that when you contribute more money, that's after tax money. So the government takes out Social Security, the government takes out their withholding for taxes, where if you had a 401k plan or a Roth plan, that's pre-tax money. Not the Roth, but the 401k would be pre-tax, and you wouldn't be paying Social Security nor federal tax on that money being withheld. So the 8% that people are putting in now, whatever, they're paying tax on that money before they contribute it to the pension plan. Where we have the nation has private retirement programs that help you from a tax point of view. So if I were a fireman or police department, I would rather have my own 401k plan, which is independent of my regular retirement. So if I switch from one, one fire company to Tiverton to Westport or whatever, that is still under my control.
So I believe, and I don't know the tax code, but I do know that when I got hired, I was allowed to put my own money into what's called the 457 plan.
Right.
So the 457 plan was for municipal employees because from what I was told from Lincoln Financial, that a 401k, the town puts in X amount of dollars, the employee puts in X amount of dollars. From what he told us, municipal towns are not allowed to contribute to a 401,
It's a
whatever it is.
457.
That's
right.
why they have the 457 where I contribute the money and I say where it's going to be invested.
Right.
But that's just because,
And is that still active, that 457 plan, or?
I have a couple.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are employees of the town who do that.
Why don't they just put more money in that?
Because we still,
Well, maybe they don't.
I mean, I still I have one. Not everybody has them. Some of the younger guys, like Steve said, they don't,
We're not aware.
they're not thinking about that.
Just to draw the point that Rob, I think, is making is, are you saying rather than agree to add more to your salary draw to put into the town's pension plan, why not simply take those dollars pre-tax and put them into the 457 plan?
Right, and typically the way this works, I don't want to mix the commercial environment with them, is that companies would give an incentive to their employees to set up these plans by saying, we will match the first $1,000, the first $200, if you contribute to your retirement plan on 401k. So if it's going to cost us money, it may be more tax efficient for the employees to say, oh, I'll start contributing to the 457 plan because the town will make a match up to $400 a year, $1,000 or whatever. Because no matter, to make this thing viable.
But I'm not sure. We were always told that the town was not allowed to make any contributions to that.
But I think they can make contributions to 457 plans.
That is categorically not true right now. I don't know how it was then. In other words, we have department heads who do not participate in the town's pension plan. And our agreement with them is that we will match some portion of their contribution to a 457 plan.
Right. To me, that's a better, more efficient way to do it, because then they get tax-free money going into that.
Right.
Yeah, but that depends.
And I think that would be a bigger benefit, like you're saying, a smarter choice or another really good option to have, because I've never even heard of these options. So that would be a benefit to have that available.
That also depends upon what investments are available in the 457 plan. Who's the plan sponsor?
Lincoln, well, we have Lincoln, there's.
Yeah, but Fidelity's, Schwab, they all do it now, and they all have 400 choices. I mean,
Okay.
But I think.
it puts more of a burden on the employee to select investment choices, but most people are doing that now anyway. Could throw a little Bitcoin in there.
Let me take that and let me take that back in conversation with the with the fire union specifically, but generalize it to how we might proceed, because that sounds like that ought to be an option that's on the table to consider.
Right, because, I mean, it gets back to the question is, how adequate is our retirement plan
Right,
compared to what else is available for the same job elsewhere?
right.
And there may be a more efficient way of giving them a better retirement plan by them making a contribution and us making a contribution into a 457 plan.
Yeah, I see your point. Okay, I don't know why it's taking me this long to figure it out.
I didn't know that we could, that the town could do that.
Yeah, but let me learn some more and then I'll bring that back.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you. The next items I think are straightforward, I hope. We have this year, early in June, June 3rd, for example, forwarded the COLAs for next year to the trustee. Therefore, our employees, our retired and former employees, will all receive, the ones that are eligible, their COLAs on time. There will not be a repayment necessary a month later and all that sort of thing. So I believe we have crossed the Rubicon, and we've actually now got a process that makes sure this happens. And I'm very grateful for that, because it was not good in the last couple of years. So those COLAs have been established. They'll be paid out. They are 2%, as you recall, and they're due on the first payment. The first payment on which they apply is the 1st of July. I have in the package a quarterly invoice from the actuary that I would seek your approval to pay.
How much?
I'll make a motion to approve the invoice.
I'll second.
Pay it.
All right, and I will ask for a roll call vote on that question.
Is it the same amount as last?
It's the same amount plus this is the year in which they do, this is the quarter in which they do the 550 for the valuation disclosure services, which is the stuff they do every year.
Yeah. These guys are nickel and diming us today.
A roll call vote, Mr. Morgan,
Yay.
Mr. Lord,
Aye.
Mr. Mauer,
Aye.
Ms. Wilkie,
Aye.
Mr. Ham,
Aye.
Mr. Watt.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you. The next is the minutes of the 3rd of May, the approval of those minutes.
Make a motion.
Second it.
Motion is made by
Morgan.
Mr. Morgan,
Morgan.
seconded by Ms. Wilkie to approve the minutes of May 3rd. Any discussion? A roll call vote, Morgan,
Aye.
Lord,
Aye.
Mara,
Aye.
Watt,
Aye.
Ham,
Aye.
Manchester Wilkie.
Aye.
Motion aye. Thank you. And our next meeting is set for the Tuesday of the 4th of July week. 4th of July is on a Sunday. The holiday itself is on Monday, the 5th. And the meeting would be on Tuesday, the 6th. And UBS has indicated that they will be ready to present to us then and have a package to us before then in order for us to consider. Anything else that needs to come before the committee? Very good. On the basis of that, I'll declare the meeting adjourned.